Good. So, with that, a very warm welcome to everyone to the September session of the Spencer 2022 webinar series. What is Spencer Educational Foundation? We are a nonprofit organization that was founded in 1979, and we're dedicated to supporting students who wish to pursue careers within the risk management and insurance industry. And we do so through various programs, including scholarships, internship grants, general grants to universities and other nonprofit organizations, experiential learning opportunities, and risk management course and curriculum development at universities. So we do have some wonderful guest speakers with us here today from Marsh, and it is my pleasure to introduce them. AC Njok is a client advisor in Marsh's multinational practice in the Raleigh-Durham area, North Carolina. In his current role with the multinational team, he coordinates a network of Marsh international advisors by providing guidance on how to help multinationals manage their insurance and regulatory needs as their business expands across time zones and borders. He joined Marsh in 2018. He is a graduate of the University of Texas at Dallas with a bachelor's degree in risk management and insurance. That's super cool. And an MBA. We also have Tina Valdez with us here today. Tina is a senior account representative with Marsh in San Antonio, Texas. She began her career in Marsh in 2019 and was part of Marsh's track program, which is a recent graduate development program, if you haven't heard of the track program before. And after having graduated from St. Mary's University, she obtained her bachelor's in finance and risk management. So thank you both for being here today. And Tina, if you would share your screen and I will turn it over to you both, to AC and Tina.
Thank you. Thank you, Tandika. Thanks for the warm welcome. I have to say that Spencer Educational Foundation and I go way back. My first internship actually was fully funded by the Spencer Educational Foundation with AT&T in the risk management department in Dallas, Texas. I don't know if they still do that, but I try to encourage students today to take advantage of those emails that come from professors like Dave Woods. Do not overlook them. You don't know where you'll get your next opportunity from a single email. It's a pleasure to be here. I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time with reintroducing myself. I'm with Marsh. As a client advisor with a multinational team. I'm happy to be sharing my perspective on multinational overview of global economy and what we at Marsh do within the multinational practice to help our clients navigate the rather complex world of international insurance, right? I mean, think regulations, think customs, think laws, think anything that really can impediment the P&L at the end of the day. We come in, we partner with them to kind of help them see that, you know, have a completely different risk overview of their program international.
Fantastic.
And so I guess you want me to go ahead and get started? I can do that. And obviously for the second part of the presentation, Tina will talk to you about what it means to be a young colleague at Marsh. Tandika mentioned the track program. I was also actually part of the track program at some point. It's a great program to explore if you're a student ready to graduate or about to graduate in the next year or two. So Marsh Multinational, before I do that, you know, let me kind of give you just a brief overview of Marsh as a company. We have over 400 offices in 130 countries. I will selfishly say that we are the best broker and the largest broker in the world. So
I will second that.
Right. So and we operate the largest worldwide network of owned control offices, which is a major advantage for us, right? Because we can then utilize those offices to kind of differentiate ourselves from the other brokers out there because we have full control and ownership of the offices, which gives us a breadth of experience from the colleagues that are working within those offices, and we are much more accountable to our clients, and gaining their expertise and making sure that we have operational alignment for their benefits, right? I think I highlight a little bit of the benefits of having an own network of brokers, um, which obviously one of them is accountability, coordination of your global programs. If you're a client, you have a clear side of escalation if anything happens. In my role, I basically oversee all those countries and own network control offices for any specific clients. One of my largest clients probably has about 80, is present in 80 countries. And so if you can think of me coordinating control master program placements and insurance, global insurance programs with 80 other offices for this particular client. It's not an easy task, but it's one that I particularly enjoy. And the other benefit of having an own network is that the client can be able to manage the cost of their insurance program much more easily. And how do we do that? We utilize our insurance and regular tax expertise. We have colleagues in London and in New York. What they do specifically is that they kind of help support the client with insurance, regulatory, and tax review services. We can look at a client's program and analyze it and be able to tell them where they are compliant in XYZ country or where they're not. We can identify where there is a bottleneck in the processes and kind of proactively tell them where we expect to be issues in terms of, say, premium collections or premium payment. Will there be any issues if they decide to place a local policy in, say, Japan, for example, or for go placing a local policy in Kenya or Zambia, whatever you can think of? We have the capability through our RT, insurance regulatory and tax expertise, to be able to help our client. Now, internally to us, this is a system that I'm particularly fond of because I actually helped implement it from the very beginning, and I still conduct training for our colleagues internationally on that. It is our Marsh Global Connect, right? This is a program implementation and servicing system that really helps our client kind of like have a live view of their programs as they're being incepted all over the world. They can know how many policies they have in each country, whether they are local standalone policies. For those of you who don't know, local standalone policies are programs that are policies rather that are placed separately from your global master control program. And I'm sure to Dave, a student, he's talked to you guys about that already in some capacity. But Marsh Global Connect really is also a repository of all our policies for the client, right? So they kind of like have a one-shop place where they can go and find the policies, have an overview of how much the program costs worldwide. They can know who are our local brokers in every single country, and they know that they can come to me particularly for any questions they have, so we can kind of help them navigate through their insurance placement. Before we move to the next slide, is there any questions so far from the group?
No, not yet.
All right, so I really want this to be interactive, right? So I don't want to bore you with multinational. So it's fun for me. I can spend a lot of time talking about it all day because this is what I do all day. But if there's anything, be encouraged. Don't be shy. If there's anything really that doesn't sit well, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer your question. And I think Tandika also posted my LinkedIn link on the chat. More than happy to connect with you and talk separately. So here's our value proposition. I mean, it's kind of like the four major pillars that we tell our clients when we approaching the clients, right? So we separate ourselves from an advisory standpoint. We have the expert. You have a central point of contact. You have local expertise in any industry you can think of in the world, right? I just recently, I'm working on one of my clients who is into the clinical trial space right now. And we're trying to place a clinical trial policy for them in China. And just navigating the regulatory world in China is very difficult, right? And the client can lean on me But I can say that I don't have to give them the answer because I don't know the answer all the time. And I can reach out to a local colleague in China. They can give me the regulatory market. They can tell me about the market conditions for clinical trials in China, what is needed, what is not needed, what is kind of like an estimate of premium cost for the clients. And I'm able to present that to the client and help them be compliant from a regulatory perspective for this clinical trial perspective. So that's our advisory side, right? So there's client team, there's risk practices. We partner with insurers all over the world. We partner with industries all over the world. And to be able to do that successfully, we rely on the talent that we have, right? Tina is on the call today. I think I've helped her or worked with her, rather collaborated with her on a few clients. I remember when we last met with each other. Um, 1,200 colleagues all over the world in 130 countries. We have about 20,000 multinational clients and subsidiaries. I mean, and it's still growing as we speak today. But you also have one client voice aligned globally, right? Before we implement any global program, we consult with our local brokers in every single country. We make sure we all align. We try to deliver the message of rather the servicing requirement from our client. Same language, same wording, consistency across the board with all our offices so that they can implement the program accordingly. And then we offer global solutions. I mean, this is why our client pay us, right? So they come with us with a problem. We do a risk review of their program and we're able to help them. I talked about the insurance regulatory and tax practice earlier. We do that by advising on compliance, on cost and coverage analysis. We give them a cross-border collaboration, and then we have some modeling, right? For those of you who are in actuarial science, our sister company, Oliver Wyman, has also partnered with us in a lot of the cases to kind of provide that actuarial analysis of the client programs, so we're able to help better deliver our service offering. I talked about Marsh Global Connect. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Link is a digital pathway for managing accounts. This is a tool that we offer to our clients, which gives them access to not just the Marsh Global Connect policies at a system that they can use, but also other advisory practices, market conditions, all over the world that they can have access to. I'm going to pause again. I feel like I've talked a little too fast there. I just want to make sure that everybody's able to capture what I'm saying. And if you have any questions, again, I'm more than happy to answer that for you.
I was curious about one thing, if it's okay to ask you a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it says centralized communication and management. So does that mean the decisions for the global businesses are made, say, in the headquarters in America? Is that what that means?
Yes and no. It depends on the size of the client. It depends on the risk, right? So we are very strategic in how we advise our clients. So think of it as a tree with branches, right? Without being pompous, I want to say that I'm kind of like the trunk of that tree. I'm the face of Marsh to the clients from an advisory's perspective, from a multinational perspective. The beauty of what I do is that I don't just advise on property and casualty programs. I can oversee property placements. I talked about clinical trial placements earlier. I can oversee directors and officers placement, cargo marine placement, without necessarily knowing every single one of those lines, because I have a team of, within Marsh and in countries that is able to help me and giving me intel. We have internal resources that kind of also helps us find the answer to a lot of the questions. So I don't have anybody telling me this is what you have to say. You don't have to say this. Everything is laid out for us. I just have to basically pick and choose what is, what will help our client. There is no one solution fit all for all clients, right? Different industries, different clients, different mindsets, different risk philosophy. I think you have to be able to analyze, first of all, what is the client doing? What industry are they in? What keeps them up at night, every night, right? So we have to be able to know that. And we do this by constantly talking to our clients, asking them questions, being proactive and trying to drive out those answers out of them. And then we kind of let them tell us what is worrying them. And then we will take that and offer a solution, a global solution, with the collaborations of the local teams all over the world. I hope I answered your question, Shanika.
Yes, that does. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I think somebody in Dave's
Fantastic.
class had a question also.
Yes, their hands
Yeah, and
up.
it's very, very similar. Question was, do you work as a team? Because before you answered that question, we were thinking, gosh, that's a lot of work for one person to be doing. And what does your team look like, and how many clients do you work with? I mean, it seems like one client of the size you just described would be, a full-time job.
Yes. I don't work alone. We collaborate a lot on a lot of things, either internally. When I say internally, within Marsh US, right? Across the different lines of coverages. But all over the world, and it depends on the client size. So I have in my book of business probably over 20 clients that I oversee placement for, different size, different industry, and different risk profile. And then the largest one I have has probably over 80 countries, right? But I don't do the work by myself. And so the good thing is that, and I think you said something about having a full-time work and how am I able to manage that. The beauty of what we do, Professor Woods, is that no 2 days look alike, right? So I woke up this morning, I was excited about this call, and the minute I opened my email, I had about 4 or 5 issues laying. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have not gone over my slides yet. What am I going to talk about during the call? So I have to put the call on the side and address those 5 issues that came, right? Yesterday was a different day. But really, you try to be personable with the offices that I work with, kind of get to know them on a personal level also. I would like for them to be able to prioritize my emails when they come to them, or my calls when they come to them, so that I can deliver to the clients almost immediately, right? I mean, we are in the US. I think the mentality is kind of like, I want it yesterday. There is no such a thing as, oh, it's going to take a week, or it's going to take 3 weeks. The response globally are not necessarily the same. I'm not going to talk about specific countries because I want to be sensitive to the different cultures. But when you can expect an answer from one country from in the world, the timing is always not the same as if I'm here in the US, right? I mean, Tina can talk about this a little bit. If I want a certificate of insurance, I can reach out to somebody in Chicago and I can get it within 2 hours. But if I want a certificate in another country, for example, it may take me, I don't know, a week, right? Because the mentality is not that I need to get it done today. The mentality is always like, I'll get to it, or I'm not going to say anything to you unless I have an answer, right? But I've been here long enough, and I'm sure for those of you who are paying attention, that with my last name, I'm not necessarily from here originally. So the advantage that I have is that I can understand different cultures. I can understand how they think and what they do. And I'm able to navigate through that to be able to get the answers to the client right away. So yes, for collaboration, definitely you have to. You cannot work alone in this environment and be successful. 2, utilize the resources that you have, and that is leaning on the local brokers all over the world to give you the answers. And 3, just being resourceful, right? I mean, Marsh has a lot of resource. We have a lot of information in our disposal. And then we partner with the different carriers that we work with, right? If I have a complex coverage question that I cannot necessarily advise on, I'll give my underwriter a call and they'll help me out and I can deliver to the client.
Fantastic. Great question.
Thank you.
Any other question there before we go to the next slide?
No, not yet.
All right. And so how do we support our clients? And I think I kind of talked about this, but this kind of gives you a roadmap of, I don't want to say my day to day, because I can do some of these things sometimes and some days not. Um, Mr. Woods, Professor Woods, centralized communication will probably answer your question, right? So we utilize Marsh Global Connect to communicate. We utilize email, instant messaging, phone calls. And then we get feedback on local clients' interactions, right? So if I have a client with a subsidiary in France, my collaborations with the local colleague in France will kind of help me understand globally what is my client is doing, how can I better serve them here in the US, right? Our clients are growing every single day. And I think with COVID, a lot of those activities kind of slowed down, but we continue to see an uptick in M&As and mergers and acquisitions all over the world. This is probably one of the most exciting part of my job when there's a mergers and acquisition. It can take up a lot of time. It requires a lot of attention because you're marrying two different risk profile, right? So you have to be able to sell that to the carriers so you can make them look comfortable with the new risk. And so we kind of help them plan and execute the integration and the divestiture. We are the first line of offense or defense in some cases for our clients whenever they're going into merger and acquisition. Every month or every year, depending on the size of the program, there is renewal documentation that we need to do. We work with carriers globally to make sure we can get auto ID card, certificate of insurance right away. We have an internal certificate of insurance service within Marsh for US Accord admitted certificates. Those we can get very easily. We can be proactive at every renewal and asking that we upgrade the system. So whenever the client wants a certificate, we can give them to them. Depending on the size of the client, we do monthly open items meetings just to make sure that we're keeping track of different issues globally. We collect exposure data. For those of you who are in actuarial science, you would understand why we do this here. It's important that the data be accurate. It's important that the data be consistent so our underwriters are able to fully and wholesomely underwrite the program, right? And that will determine the pricing that the client will pay at that renewal for that particular program. So it's very important that we work with them to collect the data in a timely manner, make sure that they're accurate. We review the data, we review the exposure, we can highlight any huge deltas year over year. We can ask questions to the client so they can explain why there is a difference, either a drop or an increase in exposure or revenues or payroll. And then we help policy and invoice tracking, right? So we do that generally within 30, 60, or 90 days from when programs are renewed, just to make sure we are consistent with our delivery. And a lot of the time, there are programs that are placed outside of our control master program. So we kind of make sure that they're renewed in time, exposure collection is done in time so that we can deliver. And then every year, generally 3 or 4 months before the program comes up for renewal, we do our annual renewal strategy meetings. And this is kind of like in a nutshell what I do, not in that specific order, but again, depending on the client on any single day or month.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And I think this is the last slide, right? Was there another slide? Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
This is the last slide, yeah.
Awesome. So let's switch gears a little bit. We are going to transfer over to Tina Valdez, who is a recent graduate herself and is working at Marsh in San Antonio, Texas. So if you would, Tina, just tell us a little bit about your journey, right? Like your journey through college, how you found out about the risk management and insurance industry, and then how you ended up where you are today, like how you actually got the job at Marsh.
Great. Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks, Tandeka, and thank you, AC, for that wonderful presentation. Even I took a lot from that, mostly that I'm glad that I'm not having to deal with all the multinational flags. No,
it is fun. It is fun.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Well, Tendeka, to your question, so I attended St. Mary's University in San Antonio, Texas. So I'm from San Antonio, born and raised, and so I chose to go ahead and stay here at, in my home city and attend St. Mary's University. And I started out as a undecided business major because I had absolutely no idea kind of what direction I wanted to go. I knew that I really enjoyed working with people, communicating with people, but I also, took a business course in high school, and I kind of loved how dynamic that world was. And so I said, that's where I'm going to enter. I didn't actually declare my major until junior year, and that was, I decided to major in finance because, that was kind of, that, of course, it kind of always has the most allure, right? You kind of hear about the, the largest companies and the opportunities in the finance realm. And at St. Mary's University, if you are a finance major, you are automatically a risk management major. And so that kind of started me on the track toward risk management and insurance. So I started taking courses in risk management, of course, unbeknownst to me, right, as I declared my finance major, and I also actually declared a marketing major, so I was a double major. And so I started taking those risk management and insurance courses, and I realized, hey, like, this is really neat. Insurance just as a financial tool in general was just so interesting to me, right? Especially what you hear about insurance and then versus what you study, right? It was, a different world. We had Gamma at St. Mary's University. I'm sure a lot of you are involved in Gamma at your universities. And so I quickly joined and got very involved, heavily involved. I became a co-president my senior year of our Gamma chapter, and I loved it, every second of it. I started attending conferences and, becoming involved in different events, starting to network. And that's how I got started. And I honestly, I credit Gamma to a lot of those opportunities. And the university, of course, we have it's a small university. We have a small risk management program, but it is fantastic. And I know that Maroon can attest to that. I see him at events all the time, and I know that he's gotten just as much benefit from our risk management insurance program at St. Mary's. And that's kind of where it all started.
I love that. So let's transition to like you getting the job, right? Or I guess, since we have mostly college students that are on here, did you do any internships while you were at college? And is that how you got your foot in the door, or was it a different experience for you getting your foot in the door at Marsh?
Yeah. I did complete a couple of internships. Most notably, I interned in underwriting for a local bank. And so that was kind of, that was at the same time that I started to get interested in risk management and insurance. I went ahead and I took that opportunity, and that was a fantastic opportunity. The banking world is certainly different, but actually I had the opportunity to shadow their enterprise risk management program there at that local bank. And that was honestly of even more interest to me. And so that drew me in even more so to the risk management and insurance side. After that, I want to say that was the summer after my junior year. The first time I heard about Marsh was at our actual university's risk management and insurance career fair. And that was the first time that a colleague from San Antonio actually brought it to my attention and said, hey, there's this great opportunity at Marsh. It's called the TRACK program. It's a great development program. Why don't you go ahead and apply? At the time, of course, I had already started to look for other opportunities. I was starting to interview with other insurance companies, carriers, and so that was a really fun time. It was very early in my senior year, and I went ahead and applied and kind of went through that process. Of course, if y'all want to hear more about that process, we can speak, specifically about that. But that's really how that got started and moved very quickly.
Fantastic. So any questions so far from the group? And I'll do a quick time check as well. We have about 15 to 20 minutes left of the session. So any questions so far? I'm looking at Mimi and Alada.
I
oh, somebody
had another quick question.
Please, yes.
This is specifically to AC. So, are there any big issues that you had to navigate when it came to working with such a global environment? Because I know you're looking at different people who are coming from different backgrounds, different ways of communication, even. So, were there any instances where you had to navigate those big cultural and communication differences?
Every day. I don't know if there's not a day that I'm having to kind of navigate through the cultural differences, right? And this is kind of, I think it's one of the other reasons why I love what I do, is because I'm dealing with people from all over the world. I said it earlier, I'm not originally from here, right? So I came here as fast as I could, just like many of us. But I have kind of like an advantage, I would say, compared to a lot of my American fellows, in that I understand the cultures all over the world. I understand how to navigate them, and I understand how to get an answer from somebody in a different place of the world. I'm a little bit empathetic when somebody's not answering. I'm not over, badging them with requests, because I know that they're going to answer, and it takes a certain time to get an answer from them, right? So I have to be very sensitive to that. But the other thing, I mean, if I'm sure you know this, is that this industry is based on relationship, right? And I think your personality will take you far more, a lot of the time, more than what you can do or your knowledge. And you have to understand that you want to be personable, right? Yes, we have to serve our clients, but the well-being of our colleagues and those that we work with is equally important. And that goes for underwriters, the carriers that I work with, right? Because I need to be able to build a long life partnership with all of them. It's not just about delivering results. It's also, I want to know how your family is doing, right? What else is going on in your life in this particular day that may be preventing you from giving me the answer to that question that I asked for 2 weeks ago, right? So I want to be sensitive to that. And it's important that I know that. I don't know if there's really any major thing in that regard, but also know that the risk landscape changes every single time, right? 2 years ago, all of us woke up 1 January 2019 or 2020, and there was COVID. And we had to deal with that, right? And then not long ago, the Russia and Ukraine war was happening. We didn't know that. Our clients were not prepared. Nobody was prepared. And so we have to find ways to be on the forefront and delivering these results and guidances to our clients, so we can let them know, we know you're worried. You know you're losing sleep. We know that you don't know what's going to happen to your operations in Russia or Ukraine or Belarus or all over the world. But don't worry, we got it. We'll figure it out. We're going to hold your hand and we're going to walk you through that process. Those are probably the biggest thing that personally I have to worry about. I don't have to worry about navigating through the different cultures, because again, I bring in my personality. I try to build relationships with the people that I work with. I do whatever I can to make sure that they're prioritizing my requests, and I'll do the same thing for them, right? So if they send me an email, I want to make sure that I'm replying right away. I'm not ignoring them. I'm not trying to give them any excuses, right? So we compensate our offices. I'm not going to get too much into that, but I want to be their advocate and kind of go and say, hey, they've done a lot of work. They should be paid fairly, right? So I want them to know that. And that's what kind of makes me a little different in that sense.
Awesome. I really appreciate that answer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Great question. Any other questions so far? Maroon, Alada, Mimi, what's on your mind?
I do kind of have a question. It's sort of around that realm. We talked about acquisitions and everything. What are some of the ways that you prepared yourself to enter into, say, your first acquisition? Did you lean on colleagues that's done it before? What kind of research did you look for? And then what's the conversations like, without divulging, obviously, sensitive information? What's the conversations like between company and company?
Well, first of all, our client comes to us, depending if this is a publicly traded company or a private company, they will come to us and make us aware of an, the mergers or acquisition dealings, right? We have a system in place that kind of helps them navigate through the process. The biggest thing in any M&A activity is the due diligence, right? And I think this is kind of where we come in play. Because, sorry, there's a guy cutting the grass behind me. So again,
We're fine. We
the
can
due
barely hear
diligence
anything. We're fine.
is extremely important as part of the process. Because if without that, we are probably missing the mark on a lot of things that will hurt our clients down the road, right? So part of that due diligence is analyzing current insurance coverages for both companies, right? For both corporations. When we do that, we're trying to kind of see, are there similarities in terms of coverages? Are there duplicate coverages here and there? Where can we eliminate coverages? Where can we integrate policies and programs so that we're saving money for our clients? I think that's important at the end of the day. And then where there's a lack of coverage, we want to make sure that we are consistent with how we're protecting our client's asset, right? So there are a lot of steps. There's notification, obviously, whenever they come to us and say we're entering into an M&A. Okay, great. So we kind of ears kind of perk up. All right, now we start asking questions. We need to know about the other company. What are you getting yourself into? There is actually a mergers and acquisition practice within Marsh that can get involved. They are the expert, and we kind of support them in that role. They are the one who do the due diligence for the most part. And if there's any international portion out of that transaction, then we come in. And then we analyze international insurance. We communicate with the carriers. We make sure we can identify any coverage gaps if there are any anywhere. At the end of the day, we want to protect our clients' assets, right? We want to protect the bottom line. So it's involving, but for the activities that we do at the end of the day, I think it's very fun.
I also have a follow-up question to that, because I know we're not perfect human beings. What if there's a gap, there's a loophole, something happens, something's missed? What's usually like the contingency plan for something like that?
For many M&As, I don't know if you've ever heard of the term reps and warranties. Before any client gets into that type of transaction, the lawyers get involved, obviously. This is beyond the insurance scope. But the lawyers get involved and make sure that they are really capturing every single thing that they need to capture. So before we even get to the due diligence part, for the most part, they've already identified any issues, right? So if there are any potential issues that may hurt the reputation of our client, the reputation of the company that they're purchasing, the deal most of the time doesn't go through, right? So before it even becomes public, there are a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes. So when it comes to us, generally, they've already done the due diligence. I mean, there's a reps and warranty policy probably in place somewhere that can make sure that the client is protected to the best possible way. And then as we identify those gaps that you mentioned, we address them. We want to make sure that the carriers are on notice. We place a policy where it's needed. Is it something that could be covered on a global basis via a control master program? We can do that. Is it something, if it's compulsory in a certain country, that maybe non-admitted coverage is not necessarily going to work? Well, we need to place a local policy in place. What's the cost, right? Those are the kind of things that you have to consider. We want to save money for our clients. That's our job. We want to give them cost savings options and solutions. And everything that we do, we're not there to just throw in policies for them and coverages. If it costs a lot of money, how can we save that money? But more importantly, how can we make sure that there is enough coverage so their assets are protected by all costs?
Fantastic. Great question. And I think, Vimy, you had a question as well?
Oh, yes. This is a great presentation. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask if Marsh is offering any scholarships or internships along with Spencer's.
I'll let Tina answer that.
Yeah, so Marsh track is definitely, so there's summer track, right? And then there's full-time track. And so summer track is the internship side of just Marsh track in general. And so easiest way to get there is to just look up, Marsh track program. You'll be led to the Marsh website and kind of read through their requirements, but it's a very quick process. And, I know that Tandeka has both AC's and I's contact information. If you wanted to talk to me specifically about the track, I've sat down with students and talked to them about, what the interview process is like and kind of what, especially in my experience, I believe that Marsh is looking for.
Thank you so much for that information.
Absolutely.
Great question. And I can definitely speak to the scholarship piece. So Spencer Educational Foundation does offer scholarships to college students that are interested in pursuing careers within this industry. So risk management, insurance, actuarial science. Our application opens up on October 1st every year. So it's coming up in a couple of weeks. This is perfect timing. October 1st is when the application opens, and it's open through the end of January, so January 31st. So you have plenty of time to go in there, put your application in. It's a super simple process. It is very user-friendly. We ask for your information. We ask you to write an essay, and that's it. So definitely take advantage of this opportunity. We offer scholarships at the undergrad level, even at the grad level. There's full-time masters, part-time masters, and even at the PhD level, if you know anyone that is interested in pursuing their PhD in risk management insurance or actuarial science. Any student within the US and Canada is applicable to apply. So feel free to ask me any questions about the scholarship, because I would love for each and every one of you here to obtain those scholarships and, make your lives a little bit easier for the upcoming semester and the upcoming school year. Great question. So we have about 5 minutes or so left of this session. Any other questions that are out there for AC and Tina, our wonderful guests that are here with us today?
I just have a quick comment real quick, is that thank you so much. Because of something personal that happened, I have to extend my graduation date, and I'm glad Spencer offers it for full-time and part-time undergraduate. So I'm very blessed for that.
Absolutely. We're here for you. And, I'm sorry to hear that you're, going through something personally, and it's tough, right? I know it's tough out there for students. You have so much to juggle. For a lot of students that are out there, not only do you have your personal lives, you have to juggle, you've got your school lives, and then a lot of you have to work as well. So we're happy to assist where possible, just to make our lives a little bit easier. So hang in there is my advice. Hang in there, Mimi. Get that degree. Awesome. Yeah.
I feel so bad for taking up all the questions, but I had a quick question for Tina. So when you were entering the industry, was there anything that you were afraid about or concerned about when going into the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there were a couple things. For Marsh track, I moved to Houston. So having lived in San Antonio my entire life, having to make the move to Houston was enough of a stressor. But on top of that, you all know, I know that we all kind of hear the same thing about the insurance industry, right? It's an old industry. There are a lot of people starting to retire. There's all this opportunity, right? And so in a sense, that adds a bit of a pressure, right, for incoming recent grads. And so that was always kind of on my mind. We had a large track class, and, you're all, assigned to different places, all parts of the business. And so everyone is kind of having a different experience. And so all of those things. At the same time, the industry itself is very dynamic. And I think that Marsh definitely reflects that. Whatever position you're in, and AC, I know that you can certainly attest to this, especially in your role. And so when I first started, the track program is structured in a sense, but at the same time, you just heard AC kind of talk about the renewal process, which is, in my role, that's immediately what I oversee for our clients as well on the US side. And it never stops, right? It keeps moving. And there are several happening at a time. Your training is happening during all of that, right? And so there's no stopping specifically for these roles, right? We can't, your managers can't stop and say, okay, this is where, no, they have to say, this is where you are in the process with this client. This is where you are in the process with that client. Let's go. You hit the ground running. And so it can be a very, difficult environment to manage at the same time. As you can imagine, most of your coworkers are going to be significantly older than you, right? And their experience level, and sometimes they forget this, is years and years, right, ahead of where you are. And so there are, managers, thankfully, I've had wonderful managers that have had the time to sit down with me and kind of come to my level, but that's not easy for everyone to do, right? Think about it. They can't remember what they knew 20 years ago, right? So all of those things, but at the same time, I think that I've found ways to manage each and every one of those things. And my network is definitely one of the reasons that I've been able to do that.
I really appreciate that answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So as we wrap up these last few minutes of the session, AC, Tina, do you have any advice, any final words of wisdom for the college students that are here today as they go about looking for internships, looking for jobs, and hopefully eventually joining us within this industry?
Yeah, it was a pleasure, Thandika, for having me. Please send our regards and thanks to the Spencer Foundation. I love what they do. Particularly excited to meet all the students, right? Because it takes me back to my own time when I was a student. But I said it earlier, this is a relationship industry. Take the shyness, throw it out of the way. As much as possible, try to meet people. As much as possible, reach out. I'm yet to meet people who love to talk about their jobs and what they do. Than I have in the insurance industry, right? We have the time to do that. We can tell you a lot of things. Be open, be adaptable. A lot of you probably see underwriters all day. You probably see brokers. You see claims analysts. But there are a lot more roles within the insurance industry that you would be shortchanging yourself within exploring, right? There are roles in accounting. There are roles in name it, it's in the industry, right? So learn how to navigate through networking, reach out to professionals when you can. Your professors are your biggest resource within your schools. If you don't talk to your professor once a week about your career or what you want to do, you're not doing it right. So bother them as much as possible. They'll give you those answers. I'm here for a resource. I'm here for questions. Reach out. Don't be shy. I'm more than happy to guide you. I look forward to meeting you when you become professionals eventually one day.
Fantastic. Thank you. How about you, Tina?
Yeah, I'll definitely kind of reiterate what AC just said, but I talked about, so kind of what I was worried about, right, to your question, kind of what I was worried about going into the industry. But at the same time, the great thing about the industry is that because of its age and because of the people that are currently in it, they are so eager to find and develop talent. And so to your point, AC, get out there. And, you heard him say, leave your shyness at the door. I'll also add to that, leave your ego at the door. When you start one of these positions, and that's not to say, your ego in terms of, you think so highly of yourself, but just be ready to ask questions, right? Don't be embarrassed about the things you think that you should know at that point. Like when you walk into a door at this new position, that's the time to build, not just your reputation, but just really the foundation for your time there. And so I really encourage you all to really take that time and be very intentional with it. And I'm really excited to see what you all do. Again, please reach out. I'm always, I love engaging with students, and I do so probably once a week even. And so I love that side of being a now, new professional in the industry. So good luck, and I wish you all the best. Thanks so much, Thandeka.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for that awesome conversation and for your words of wisdom for the group of college students that are here with us today. Thank you for your time, AC Tina. We truly appreciate it. So we do host these sessions every month during the spring semester and the fall semester. We typically host it on the second Thursday of every month. So from next month onwards, we're going to go back to our regular programming. So the next session is going to be on Thursday, October 13th, and it's always from 1 to 2 Eastern Standard Time. So hope to catch you guys next month. Our presenting company is going to be Markel. And yeah, thank you all for your time. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
So much.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.